Allow us to convey our deepest condolences to you and your partner on the loss of your baby. I know this
Thank
must
you
be a
so
very,
much.
very difficult time for you. And no one can imagine what you and the other parents are going through at this time because at the end of the day, this was your child. Would you like to start by telling us a bit about yourself, please?
Okay, well, as you all know, my name is Danyelle Samaroo. I I'm not too sure how to start it and where to actually go because after the ordeal that I would have experienced, I feel like I've become such a new person and still trying to figure out myself. So yeah, that's all I could say for now because I feel like the person that I used to be is not the same person that I am now, and the transition from that has really altered me. So as I said, still trying to figure it out now.
Was this your first child?
Yes.
Oh, well, again, condolences. I can just imagine how you're feeling. And how is your partner coping?
He is trying his best to cope. We all have our moments where we'd feel sad and the obvious emotions, but as I said, we're trying our best to cope and get through it together.
Is it
And
a boy or
this would have been your first baby, correct?
Correct.
is it a boy or girl?
A girl.
Okay. Well, tell us about how this started for you. I know, well, of course, you were pregnant and joyfully expecting the birth of your child.
Yes.
How was the birth and the days or weeks after the birth for you?
Well, prior to the birth, she was premature due to pre-ruptured membranes, and I was at the Mount Hope General Hospital. And due to them not having space in the NICU, I was transferred to Port of Spain General to have an emergency C-section. When I arrived there, they tried for me to have a natural birth. However, it didn't go as planned and was rushed to do a C-section. After that, it went okay. I was a bit worried that the baby was in NICU and just overwhelmed by that. But we were getting through it, and we would go visit her every day, sometimes a couple times a day, and just try to spend as much time as we could with her. And we would be told from the doctors that she would be released soon, and that built our hopes up and made us feel a lot better. Just knowing that probably they would say in a few days or in a week she might be home. And it was a really joyous moment for us regarding that time. And well, after visiting her for the last day, which would have been Monday the 5th, I believe, yeah. Um, it was a very heart-shattering experience because I left her in good condition and then got a call approximately 2 hours after arriving home saying that she wasn't doing well. Got a call after about 45 minutes saying that she was under resuscitations. So it was, I would say, an emotional roller coaster. That's the easiest way to describe it.
Yeah. I mean, it must have been a very harrowing experience for you and your partner in terms of, navigating something like that. And it's nothing that you would want any parent or parents to go through. What kind of support you had going through the experience?
Well, the initial process, from the beginning, I was happy. I was excited. I don't think any amount of words could describe how elated I was to actually be able to become a mother and experience it. And after her birth, it was the most precious thing that could have happened for both of us. And we always talk about how it was such a blessing, so on and so forth. And then, well, afterwards, with her death, I would say that it shattered us, but we still try to have hope and look for comfort in knowing that she's a little angel looking over us.
Would you like to share her name with us? Is
Yeah,
that is
her name is Aria Raya Chatterton.
Ariel? How far along were you when she was born, and how old was she when she unfortunately passed?
I was 32 weeks and 6 days, and she was 10 days old when she passed.
So of course she was born premature, as you indicated
Correct.
earlier on, and when she was born, was she stable?
Initially, she had to be on oxygen and heat regulation. But after a few days, she was able to come off of that and she was doing well. She was growing a lot. she was showing a lot of progression at a quick speed.
Were you able to hold Ariel at all?
Yeah, we were. She was initially in a more intensive care area where they would have had the babies who needed more urgent care, and then she was moved to a front area where they don't really need as much care, and we were able to hold her and interact with her a bit more, and
So
just
she was progressing well. If
yeah,
that if, yeah.
she was definitely progressing well. She was coming along really good, and she was up to date with the weight. She was slowly off antibiotics. They were telling us that everything was okay. So, and that she would be home soon. So we were thinking we had no reason to worry then.
When did you get the? But you said you visited one day and she was fine, and then they called you 2 hours later and told you that she had started to show signs of deterioration. Walk us through that if you can. It's difficult, but if you can walk us through that moment, please.
No problem. So I would have went on that day to spend half day with her. Well, the intention was to spend the entire day, and I went that morning. I held her. I played with her. I inquired from the doctors if everything was okay, if she was well. She did a blood transfusion days prior, and she was finally going to start back her food on that day. So I inquired about that as well, and they said, yeah, she would start back soon. Everything was well and successful. Um, After that, they fed her. She burped. I was able to burp her and stuff, and she was good. Continued playing with her, and they told me afterwards that I would need to step out of the room because they needed to do their routine checkup and stuff. And I told them, okay, fine, no problem. Came back into the room, spent a bit more time with her, and then they told me I would have to leave because they were going to insert back a navel line, which she would be feeding through. Which I was a bit curious about because if she was feeding well and finally digesting her food, I didn't understand the reason for it. Nevertheless, I accepted and I decided to go home. And upon reaching home, I got the call saying that she wasn't doing too well and we should come visit her. And I told them no problem. When my partners were from work, we'd come visit. And that was the plan. About 45 minutes after I got the call saying that they began resuscitations on her. And that was when I knew something definitely had to be wrong. I immediately messaged him and told him, and he rushed over to the hospital.
And had she passed when you got back to the hospital already?
Well, when he arrived at the hospital, I took about approximately less than an hour to reach. And that is when I saw both of them together. She was off any major machines and stuff. So I thought she was good. I thought they did whatever they could have done to save her, and that she was just probably resting. And it was only after a nurse or a doctor, I can't recall, I was asking her about her progress, and she told me she wouldn't be able to make it. And that's when reality kind of started to hit in, why she wasn't on the machines and why she wasn't in her usual area, why she had on her clothes that she was supposed to be coming home in.
So she had already passed.
She was still alive, but her heart was very faint.
So they told you the prognosis was not good at all.
Yeah, they told us because of the quantity of time that they would have taken to resuscitate, and her heart had stopped for a long period. I think my partner told me it was approximately 30 minutes they were trying for. She would have suffered severe brain damage, which would have altered her chances of survival severely. So
Were
she
you
was
able to
still,
hold her at that point?
at that point, yes, I was able to hold her, and she passed away at 6:18. So I was able to stay with her for about 15 to 20 minutes, I would say, before she passed.
I'm sure that's the worst day of your life
It
and your
definitely
partner.
is.
How did you cope after that? We should ask you earlier on what kind of support you had. What was the process like after that tragic moment?
Well, after that, they asked if we would like to get her in a private room, just to spend some time with her. And well, we obviously agreed. So we went to that conference room in the NICU and we just tried to accept what was really happening and tried to come to terms with it. I think in that moment it had so much shock from both of us with regards to that. After that, we began prepping for her funeral. I think that was one of the hardest times, emotionally, physically. And after the funeral, I don't want to say things got better because they really didn't, but knowing that she was at rest and knowing that she was, I don't know how to put it. I think it's
In a
just
better place?
yeah. Um, we we found some comfort in that, and we started saying that she was our little guardian angel and she was looking over us. And I think that's the only comfort we're really getting in this entire situation.
Well, someone's asking, were you satisfied with the general care that Ariel received from the time she was born by C-section to the time she passed?
From the time she went into the NICU, I can say that we were satisfied. However, coming up at the end and finally realizing the cause for her death and what was relayed to us, I think I'd have an altered perspective on that due to the simple fact that we were never aware that there was a bacteria in the NICU. It was explained to us that it was a bacteria that she developed, that it was because of her prematurity. We really started to blame, well, I started to blame myself, and I was thinking there wasn't much I could do until after finding out from the Northwest Regional Health Authority official release that it was a bacterial infection within the NICU that was going on for quite some time. So in the initial stages, I would say yes, but coming down to the end and after finding out the real truth about it, I have my doubts and concerns now.
So,
Post the incident, isn't that you and your partner have sought counseling? Did the Ministry of Health offer counseling with regard to the issue, from the psychological component to dealing with such an event? Was any of that offered to you?
Right, so with regards that we have sought counseling privately, but our attorneys, who is representing the case together with the attorneys the Northwest Regional Health Authority would have hired, they are currently correlating to get some psychological services available for us, and we should have more information regarding that within a week.
what was the first cause of death you were told? You said that it was a bacterial infection she developed. How much information was shared with you at that point?
None at all, really. They just told us it was a bacteria that she developed, and it was because of her prematurity.
When did you make a connection, or were you able to make a connection that there may have been other parents whose babies developed the same infection and it was an issue in the NICU?
So surprisingly enough, the day we went to the hospital to collect her infant card to go get her death registered and her birth registered, one of the parents at the car park saw me crying and she called me over and she said, I know what you're going through. You're going through the same thing as me. And we just started talking, and at that point we realized, okay, it's not just me alone, it's not just you alone, because they would have known about a couple other deaths as well. And that's when we started talking a bit more and we realized, oh wow, this is actually a problem that is occurring within the NICU and it wasn't just our babies. So to us it felt as though it was kind of being covered up because we weren't really told that it had other deaths and this was going on prior to the death of our baby. So I wouldn't say much was
So
really
you started to realize with that conversation with the other parent,
correct.
and that wasn't told to you by the ministry, that, well, there may have been other deaths connected.
Correct, not at all.
How did you feel when you saw the story break in the media?
I felt a lot of anger and sadness in that moment because I felt that they should have at least told us as the parents, this was an issue that they were facing within the NICU and not let us not have us find out from the media. because that is how we found out. It wasn't like we got a call from one of the doctors or a representative saying, it was a bacteria within the NICU. It wasn't the baby's fault. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't our fault. So a lot of anger and sadness in that moment.
And after you found out in the media that there were so many other parents, because you said you spoke to one parent in the car park,
Correct.
did you speak to any other parents at that time or before it broke in the media that may have alerted you that there was something connected?
Yeah. Yes, I actually spoke to one of the parents who also told me about her death, the death of her baby as well. And that's when we were like, okay, 3 babies. And then we started talking more to other parents one other parent who had a baby in the NICU as well. And she told us that, there were quite a few deaths over the weekend. And then we started hearing it from different persons within the hospital. Nothing was ever said directly to us. And after a while, after the story broke, it was on news. Some of the mothers got in touch with each other and they ended up creating a WhatsApp group, kind of for support and to just keep each other updated.
And at what point did you individually, or was it a collective decision to seek the services of attorneys?
At the point where we realized that it was sort of being covered up due to the fact that we weren't told, we had to find out from external sources that it was more than one death, we decided to go ahead and individually try to reach out to somebody. But thankfully at that point, the lawyers reached out to us and told us they would like to represent us, considering the fact that it's such a touching matter.
What do you want? Have you received the medical records, the official medical records related to your daughter Ariel?
Currently, we haven't. We've been told by the Northwest Regional Health Authority we would receive a copy. However, our attorneys have been able to get a copy, and we should get it within the week.
So the official report, at least a preliminary report, has been forwarded to your attorneys?
Correct.
Have you had sight of it?
Not as yet. As mentioned just now, they said we would be able to get a view of it, and that should be sometime within the week.
Now, PAHO, the Ministry of Health has contacted PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization, to conduct an independent inquiry. What are your thoughts on that?
I want to look at the positives and say that it's a good thing that they're involving an organization like that to investigate and do a proper sweep of it. However, after my experience with not being fully in the loop about something that was happening with my own child in that public facility, I have my doubts on whether it would be fully revealed, whatever their findings are would be fully revealed, or if it would be a cover-up. I'm really not sure.
What do you want out of the investigation, most of all?
Out of the investigation, I think I really just want to know if it was a bacterial infection, how it could have started, were the doctors contributing to it, was the equipment clean and stable, because from other reports they were saying that they didn't have clean and stable instruments for the procedures that they were conducting. So I would like these questions answered as to why it is they waited so long, why was nothing done, did they know about it, what could have been done to prevent it, just for it to come to light and they could finally come to us and say, well, this was the actual reason.
Since the story broke, I think Richard asked about counseling earlier on. Have you been contacted otherwise by the Ministry of Health for any reason?
No, we haven't.
Have you contacted the Ministry of Health seeking any information whatsoever?
No, I think the most we would have done regarding information was just going to the Port of Spain General to request our medical records. Other than that, nothing regarding the ministry.
You said you have a WhatsApp group. How are the other parents coping that are present in the WhatsApp group? How are they coping?
no one is really coping well. We try to support each other as much as we could because, as I said, we have our moments where we would feel our weakest and loneliest and saddest. Um, so they aren't really doing too well, but they're trying. They're all trying their best.
So this situation, I don't want to call it a story, has really gripped national attention. Uh, are you surprised by the outpouring of love and support, or is it comforting to you in some way?
It is. It is comforting to know that there are so many people willing and so many people that are trying to get the story to light so that we could get truth and actual answers and most of all justice. Because I believe that after so many deaths, it needs to come to light and something must be done to prevent it from happening in the future. Because these are lives that were crafted and would have changed people forever.
Yeah. I know you had said that, you felt that a lot of the health care was fine, but your perception got altered after the issue. Is it that you have lost faith in the public health sector at this point? Or what's your take on it in terms of how you see it now?
Oh, definitely. I would say that my faith has severely deteriorated in public health, considering the fact that I would have trusted them with my baby and would have been told by them every single day that she was fine. Never once was the bacteria mentioned to us. They made us believe that everything was okay, and to just find out that she was under resuscitations after seeing her in good health and good condition. I don't think I could ever have faith in something like that.
Has there been any indication to you or any of the other parents in the WhatsApp group about where this bacterial infection may have originated?
So there were speculations that it was from a baby who was transferred in and not properly incubated by the staff, um, who had an infection. There were also
Well,
speculations.
we don't know. So we don't know
Yeah,
improvement
that's
application
why I
of the
said
organization,
speculation. So
right? So
nobody knows for sure, but there would be little rumors going on and on and around. We heard that it was because of a leaking pipe and instruments were being washed under that pipe, and because of doctors not wearing gowns and the gloves properly. I mean, it has a lot of speculation regarding why it is or how it is the bacteria started spreading.
you spoke of justice earlier on. What would justice look like for you and your partner and your family?
For us, justice would be them openly admitting that it had a bacterial infection within the NICU, because up till now, not one of the doctors or not one of the healthcare people who were there could come out and say to us, okay, well, this is what actually happened. This was how long it was there. So we just want truth and we want answers, and we also want the proper implications to be implemented into the NICU, not in only Port of Spain alone, but within all the public healthcare facilities, to ensure that this kind of thing doesn't happen again. Because, as I said, it's little lives that would have so much potential, and knowing the feeling as a mother who would have went through this, I would definitely and could safely say it's one of the worst feelings, knowing that something so precious to you is taken away and there's absolutely nothing you could do about it. So just to ensure that it doesn't happen again, that the proper requirements are met and are to standard or above.
Someone was asking in the chat if when you were there, because you said you were satisfied originally with the level of healthcare services provided, did you, I don't know if that's the protocol, but would you have seen sanitation, probably when you went there, uh, uh, protocols and procedures that you think were in keeping with what is best healthcare practices?
So while I was visiting, I would have noticed that the doctors had on the gowns and the gloves. We the parents also had to wear the gowns and the gloves, wash hands upon entry, wash hands again before entering the department where the babies were. Um, but we would be assigned we would only be visiting our baby. We wouldn't be from baby to baby. However, the doctors there, they would use the same gown and the same gloves to attend to different babies. Now these different babies, as we've been informed, would have different problems, to say, because they would be premature, most of them. So it's easy for infection to travel from baby to baby if they are not changing the gown and gloves and just interacting and treating the babies at multiple times with this. It was also noted to us, and something we would have observed as well is the doctors moving from one section. So as I would have mentioned, there were three sections that we knew about. The first one would have been the intensive part, the second, the step down on the way to recovery to go home, and finally, the room where they would be kept to finally be released. And they would just be moving from room to room with the same gown and gloves on. Something interesting that I noticed as well, sorry to keep it so long, but I just wanted to add this as well. On the day that I would have visited Aria, the last day on the 5th, I would have noticed that one of the doctors who were attending to her without gloves, she was trying to insert back a catheter into her. And I was a bit confused as to why she wouldn't be using gloves to do such a procedure, especially after finding out that it had a bacterial infection. And to me, you should take all precaution. Wear gloves, change them if you just go to a next station, so on and so forth. It was surprising to me that she didn't do that, and it was even more puzzling after, as I would have just stated, as to why she would have done that, knowing that it had the infection, knowing that the risks as a medical professional, the risks that would have been implemented at that time.
But she may not have known about the bacterial infection, but certainly I think normal procedure, as far as I knew it, I'm not a medical professional, is that
Correct.
gloves should be used.
So even if she didn't know, to me, it's like just to be safe, because these are premature babies and they could develop any sort of infections because their body isn't as resistant at any time. Why not be safe, just to be sure?
Is there anything you'd like to add that you think the public should know, that you would like to, that you feel comfortable sharing?
I would like to add that this entire situation has been really hard for all of us, not just myself, all the mothers which would have experienced losses throughout the time being there. For us not having the closure that we so much need to move on. However, in despite of all of that, we have been given a lot of love and support by all of you who would have heard the story, who want the best for us. And I think on myself, on behalf of all the mothers and families, we just want to thank you and say how much it means to us, because that extra comfort during this time, it really means a lot and it goes a long way.
Right. Danielle, thank you for being with us. We know
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
very, very difficult time, and you, for someone who's been through such, you and your partner and your family, such an amazing, outstanding tragedy. You're very composed, and we pray for you that
Thank
you
you
find
so
comfort and that you find healing through this ordeal. Thank you for being with us and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me.